Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. This is Syya with the After GLO Live Recap podcast with
Erin, Gregor.
And we're also the co-founders of Innovation Media Enterprises, a boutique podcast production firm and consulting agency. And we're also the Dallas co-chairs of Global Leaders Organization. Today, we welcome back, quite frankly, I think we should just make you a permanent person on our podcast, Hasan, the Miami GLO Chair. Welcome back, Mo.
Thank you so much for having me back. I'm super delighted to be with you two ladies. You're amazing hosts. And so, I always have a lot of fun with you. So I'm very happy to be on with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, okay, so today's topic, I just knew, I'm like, Mo, you have to come back. I know we're kind of abusing you in your time, but I mean, I feel like you're like the other expert in the room. And so this week on Business Acceleration 2.0 series, GLO had welcomed Linda Hollander. I keep calling her Lisa. Oh my gosh, she's gonna kill me. Linda Hollander. And she is just, 20 plus years of getting corporate sponsorship. So I want to unofficially title this Mo Money, Mo Money, Mo Money.
That's a good title. Boy, what a great topic. What a great
Yes.
topic to have. And before we continue, do you mind if we take a quick second to talk about what in the world corporate sponsorship is? Because I feel like not every entrepreneur is clear on that, right?
I think it's a great idea.
Perfect. Okay, Mo, take it away.
No, I was going to hope one of you two ladies would explain it. Erin?
Well, and it's where you're basically helping a corporation get in front of their audience, and they're paying you to do that. So, and get in front of their ideal audience. So you're gathering people, whether that's a event, whether that's a podcast, whether that's a web, however it is, you are gathering a group of people, and a corporation is sponsoring that thing, that content, whatever it is, because they're trying to get more exposure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or they're trying to be nice, either one.
Or they're trying to be nice, but usually it's some combination of both.
Yes.
And, I don't really watch TV like in the traditional sense. There's a couple of shows I'll watch on Netflix or whatever. But the other day I decided to watch TV with advertisements for just one day as an experiment. And it was shocking how many ads get repeated over and over and over again to like drill it into your head. And first of all, thank goodness I don't watch TV with ads. And I'm not saying anything against sponsorships, because this is actually a conversation about sponsorships. But it's really more about understanding that companies spend significant amount of money to have that repeated exposure. And one thing about an event is that thing is in your face the whole time, right? If it's a signboard or a speaker, and we think about like games and sports, and it's like you can't find a square inch of any stadium that's not covered in corporate sponsorship.
And it's everything now. Like I was just watching the NBA finals, and they've got the Phoenix Suns has honey. It's the Chrome extension. They've got honey on their jersey. Like they're even taking up. They're taking up everything. So it's crazy. Like anywhere, it's like, oh, I can wear it. I can tattoo it on my forehead. Is going to be next. I swear to God.
Well, there are brands that are looking to embed into our skin and stuff. So it's coming. It's coming.
It's coming, absolutely. And and it's amazing how much like this also affects the culture of a city. Right. Mm-hmm. So in Miami, we went from the American Airlines arena to the new FTX arena, which is a crypto trading exchange. So it's also a sign of the times of like what's happening. That's $100 million transaction right there.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, just for one of our, partners that we work with in esports, right? The fact that, John Davidson, he talks about how his favorite sponsorship story is turtle wax in esports. And it sounds like totally too, incongruent branding.
Like turtle wax, like car wax, turtle wax.
Yeah. Yeah. And the way they tied it together was there was he was either a streamer or a professional player, an esports, athlete, that everyone loved and respected. And he started using turtle wax for his cars. And he loves cars. And so he talks about cars a lot. And so Turtle Wax said, hey, there's an opportunity here. This guy's influential. He loves his cars. Most esports players do love their cars too. And it turned out to be a very, very successful campaign. And I think they're still huge sponsor in the esports arena. I mean, it's crazy. But if
by the way, you just totally did something for me, Syya. Like totally opened up like a whole new avenue for me when you were sharing that, because I love boats and there's no shortage of boating companies that would want to sponsor something with the types of events that I'm doing. Like, I'm gonna get me a couple of these boating sponsors.
God, yeah,
Thank you, Syya. Like, this is, you all should think about being on this show. I get so much value out of it. Like, hot diggity, I should make at least another $100,000 a year on that. So.
Oh, well, hey, think of us, all right? Just slip some more, our way to Dallas. But I think that is something about sponsorships in general. Yes, there's always going to be the traditional route. She had mentioned tech, right? Like tech is always wanting to get somewhere in there, right? And it's always banks, right? Or insurance firms or whatever. And to me, yes, those make sense. And then they have money. So let's not deny the fact that you do want to go to people that have budget, right? Allocated for that purpose. But there are a lot of great other industries that are part of the community that, again, you have to know your audience. You have to know who you're serving. And I think that was so critical on her part, was selling the concept, right?
Yeah.
And so I really want to hone in on this, you guys. How often have we told a story to ask for money?
Yeah, I love that part. I didn't have any storytelling. Go ahead, Mo.
Oh, no, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say, I didn't have, when I was pitching corporations, it was very black and white. It was very, this is what this is. These are the numbers. This is who, there's a little bit about the why and the story behind it, but it was not, she put it at a whole other level. What were you going to say, Mo?
I was going to say the exact same thing. For me, selling to corporations has been a procurement process, right? They've got a formal request for proposal or request for quote or whatever it is. I'm going to give them that formal thing because the business wasn't acquired that way. The business was acquired through a referral. Right. So I'm just doing paperwork. And that's kind of what I'm used to doing in the corporate world. And I want to just refer to my notes for just a second, because she said a couple of things of like what to do to put. And she said, this is like an industry standard set. One is to put a description of what we do, what our benefits are. So these are our benefits for the sponsors, right? Meaning they're going to get exposure during the event, before the event, after the event, during interviews, during whatever. They're going to get stage time, etc. And then what is specifically our demographics and our, and as much information about our audience as possible. And then our marketing plan. And then she says, then, use the storytelling and show the emotional connection of how we've helped other people. And then she actually suggested using our personal story along with other testimonials and things of that nature in the package. And this for me is alarming because I stay away from my personal story. I'm like, who cares about me? Here's my ideas, here's my product, here's my services, here's my value proposition, etc. So it kind of like rubbed me the wrong way for a second because I'm like, ew, I can't do that. But it also is completely logical. Like, I'm not an idiot. I know we sell to people, not corporations, but I've dealt with corporate drones for so many years. I've been brainwashed to think like everyone is that way.
Right.
It's not true. It's not true because people are more awake today than they were, 15, 20 years ago. I think people are more conscious about their activities in life, etc. So I found her advice to be like alarming, jarring, and also like straightforward and simple and honest. Like, it makes sense. When I think about it, I'm like, heck yeah, that makes sense to do that.
Well, and look at like on Shark Tank, like how many times do they say, well, I'm not so sure, the product is good, but I'm investing in that person, right? They hear the story of the person and that's who they invest in. So for us to believe, and this is not Kettle calling, pot black or whatever it goes, but this is me saying I do the same thing. I don't make that correlation. You know what I mean? Like I was doing the exact same thing, but it makes 100% sense.
Well, I have a saying, people do business with people who they like and trust.
Yeah.
And how else to do it? It's a total relationship. And oh my gosh, you guys, in the VIP section, someone had asked the question. So typically I think it was Jonas who asked the question, which was, so what's the typical quote sales cycle from initial conversation, conception to, more money. And she said over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, she said like 8 to 12 months was like a typical thing you should expect, and it could be as long as it takes. And
Well, and that's because the budgets too, like they're setting budget. They're not like,
Yeah.
oh, you need 100 grand. We happen to have 100 grand just sitting here waiting to go next month. Yeah. Let me write you a check.
and that didn't surprise me one bit. And at the same time, I also know that in cities, right, like specifically in cities like Miami, where events are thrown last minute. Right? Somebody will say, hey, I've got 100 grand to spend. I want to throw a party this weekend. And they'll pull together all the resources to throw a killer party in a couple of days.
Wow.
So in a city like Miami, there are a bunch of companies that are, maybe small and mid-sized companies that do have the budget to spend as well. Right. So I think there's something to be said for understanding that there's big corporations with slow, long sales cycles, and 8 to 12 months doesn't shock me at all. I get booked sometimes for trainings for like 2 years in advance because you're going to have a management conference in 2 years. Right. So they don't need me in between then, right? Or maybe for other stuff. But, so this is a normal process that's slow and long. But I think that one thing that's really important to think about is that it's not slow, it's appropriate for the type of process it is. Right. For like you were saying, Erin, like people having their cycles of budgets, people having an understanding that, people in marketing do travel. Right. So they're going to be away from their desk for weeks at a time if they're doing conferences and whatnot. So,
yeah.
You got to play the game. Just like many things, you just got to, play the game and keep playing it long enough until those results start to compound. Because I don't see like myself, right? Like I've got a couple of major things, if you guys don't mind me sharing.
Go for it.
That I've got coming up that I'm looking for corporate sponsors for. So if you're watching this, reach out to me and on LinkedIn and send me a message and let's talk about sponsorship, because I think you're going to love what we have to offer. The first thing is we're doing the world's best GLO event. Okay, because
I'm feeling competition here, Erin.
We're also like the first ones doing an event in a city. So, hey, I'll take the world's best GLO event. And what we're doing is an event at a place called the Lab Miami. We're going to have about 150 people there that are going to be CEOs, founders, and investors. And we already have several in-kind sponsors. We already have a food, alcohol, bartenders, some entertainment, some other things that we've been able to work out and get in-kind sponsorship for. So this is exactly the right thing for us to now go after corporate sponsors and be appropriate about it, right? So let me actually talk about appropriate, because I've done my research here in Miami to see what sponsorships are worth and et cetera, et cetera. So for something like this, what we're going to be offering is 4 main sponsorships, right? Because we don't want to have a bunch of them. We want 4 main sponsorships at $5,000 a piece. And they each get stage time. So they each get like 5 minutes on stage to talk about their products and services, make an offering, hopefully just, teach and engage the community, et cetera. They're going to get, of course, the booth and banners, et cetera. And then they're going to get time with us before the event, after the event, online interviews, and other ways that we'll be actually engaging with them throughout the year. Right. So that's kind of like one, because we're going to be doing these GLO events 10 times a year. So it gives an annual opportunity for them to engage that way. The other thing is, I recently acquired an American Express travel agency franchise. Don't ask me why, because I was having some wine with friends and I ended up with a franchise. Okay. So I'm going to be doing several things, including moving some of my executive retreats and trainings to cruise ships. Right. So it makes it so much easier for me to facilitate that. But I'm also going to be putting on this fall a huge crypto cruise. It's called Crypto on the Water. And it's actually going to be a cruise for people that are in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space, with different education tracks for investors, engineers, CEOs, and founders, as well as those that want to come and work in the ancillary area. Right. So they would look at, how do I have a practical application for this technology into some other industry, et cetera. So we're going to throw a huge crypto conference as well. So that way, why not? I've got a travel agency. Let's do some fun events. So same thing here. There's corporate sponsorship opportunities for these large groups of people and these events that I'm going to do throughout the year. So for me, like, I had this and then went into the session yesterday with her, and I'm just like, oh, it's so good, because she just gave like the step-by-step gems. And, one of the things that I really appreciated about these GLO sessions, and I haven't attended all of them, right? Because we have meetings and other things. I'm on a boat, I do other things. I can't always be in all the trainings. But when the topic interests me, I make sure I attend, because every single one I've attended has been like, holy moly, like this is high quality content that, I had spent 3 days prior researching on the internet how to get corporate sponsors. And I'll tell you what, she didn't come up on my search list. Right? But it has to do with my search history and my search algorithm and whatever she's got. And we weren't in like close circles. GLO is the only thing that brought us together. We're like third level connections on LinkedIn. And if it wasn't for GLO, I wouldn't have gotten that rapid fire information, because it's not to say, like when I heard her say the 8 to 12 months, I'm like, okay, great. I'll land some corporate sponsors in 8 to 12 months, but I'm gonna take everything else that she taught and also apply it right now for sponsors for my events.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm building a GLO pitch deck for sponsors. I'll share that with you ladies as soon as I'm done. And
with crypto too, there's a lot of money. If you're going to not just do Bitcoin, like expand it to all crypto, there's a lot of money to be spent there and a lot of people looking to get in front of people. So that should be a good one for you to land sponsors on.
Maybe what we should do is, instead of that other podcast we're thinking about, Syya, what if we did a crypto podcast? Those seems to be popular. And
that would be Erin's forte. Erin knows more about crypto than I do. So Erin could be your co-host on that one.
I think that'd be something maybe interesting to do. And then we could do like an entire series, and you guys could record, or we could record a bunch of episodes together while we're at sea.
Ooh.
Unless you're opposed to going on cruises and stuff. Are you guys okay with tropical climate, sunshine?
No, I'm not actually. I'm anti-sun. I'm sorry, Mo. Anti-boats and sun.
Well, we took cruise from Alaska, but it's still on a boat. So.
I'm anti-fun. Yeah, no, I don't want to be like out on a boat with amazing people and exchanging amazing ideas and growing my business. Who wants to do that? I know Joseph doesn't want to do that. I see you,
and
Joe.
this is the thing. It's like, what I really, really loved about this session yesterday is that it opened up a revenue stream that for me had occurred as a someday phenomenon, with like a lot of blanks and like holes and gaps, and how do I get from here to there? And now I feel like I've got a solid path, right?
Yeah.
And so I understand the value of running the law of large numbers and making phone calls that, hey, if I want a sponsor in this industry, it's not a bad idea to call all the major players.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. And then have them compete for my business, right? Instead of the other way around. So, this requires a sales cycle. I think that's fine. I mean, that's what it is. This is a traditional thing that's going on. But for those of us that are doing events and, for like you guys doing awesome podcasts and things of that nature, it makes so much sense to bring in large dollars, because you're continuing to get exposure. And then when you're doing high quality work, why not get those corporate dollars to support you in expanding your marketing efforts and so forth and so on. So.
And that was a huge, that was like bullet point number one when the question was asked, what mistakes have you made? And I just loved her humbleness, because she's like, all of them. I made all of them, but the first one, not charging enough money.
Yeah.
So don't undervalue yourself and what you're, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it be an event, and look bigger than the event itself, right? So let's talk about not charging enough money, because there's just an assumption of I don't have budget, or corporate sponsorship, is limited to some degree. Help me understand for you, Mo, because you've gone out there and you're like, I just got 20K, and you're like, okay, wow, how did you get it?
So first of all, I screw this up all the time. Okay, so in all fairness, right, I should do a better job, if there's such a thing as shitting myself, right? But at the end of the day, there's a couple of things that I kind of started to understand, which is just to separate my viewpoint on how much money I'm supposed to charge into what's appropriate for the industry and the sector that I'm working on. Okay. So for instance, in my management consulting and my training work, a long time ago, I charged $50 an hour to train executives and managers, right? Which, when you do full-time work is 100,000 and change. And I thought that was decent money. Now I don't charge less than $1,000 an hour for my time. Right?
That's awesome.
$1,000 an hour. You want a basic consulting gig, if you're going to sign a long-term contract, great, we can work out something long-term, but it's going to be in that ballpark and higher based on the work that you want. And then, I kind of screwed this up recently. I've been testing out pricing for a new workshop I've got coming up for speakers, right? For professional speakers and presenters and managers and executives that want to improve their communication skills. And I had someone over at my house the other day, and he's someone who looks up to me as a speaker, right? And is interested in having me coach him and help him develop to the next level. And I hadn't told him yet what my prices were, but he's doing a little speaker workshop for people that are like brand new, right, to the world of speaking. And he's planning to charge more than I was, right? Thankfully, he told me first. I could be like, oh, Jesus, like I need to adjust, right? I need to adjust, because it's so easy to forget that, you look out from your own lens in life and you say, okay, well, I'll charge this much because, you think of like these 5 people in your life that you want to help out, and they can only afford that much. And you don't think about the 5 million others that actually have a budget or are willing to pay for this. And so this is why I think shifting that viewpoint when you're doing pricing structuring is to leave yourself out of it and look at what's appropriate to the market and really get yourself knowledgeable in market pricing, and knowledgeable to like, where do you place yourself in the market? Like where do you like, so for instance, in the world of corporate training, I've trained 3 to 4 Supreme Court justices, a couple of prime ministers, 40 VPs at the World Bank, several CEOs of Fortune 100 companies. Why in the world would I not be charging at the top of the scale? Does that make sense?
Right. Oh, 100%.
It would be actually highly appropriate or inappropriate to do that, which is where like my emotional condition comes in and I gotta, handle that. So.
Well, I think too, like, to that point, knowing your value and understanding, I think you have to get really creative. And this is like business 101. We've mentioned it before. You've got to know your audience. So I know, like, especially when you're starting out too, you can get away with so much more. Like I know a friend of mine who put on a huge conference, and it was not very large at the beginning, but what he did was when he reached out to the sponsors, it was for his first year. He's like, I can tell you the reach of the attendees that will be there. So these are the people who are going to be attending, and here's their social following. And so he leveraged those numbers.
Erin, I'm taking that idea from you right now as well and adding that to my sponsor deck. Thank you, Erin. Like,
absolutely. But like, how do you get creative? A lot of people are like, with podcasting, or it goes by downloads. Stop going for massive numbers of downloads. I've had clients that have had 0 podcasts, 0 downloads, but their audience is so niched. And I know the riches are in the niches, or niche, whatever you want to call it, but it really is about that. And they've had sponsorship. They had people writing them checks right there because they knew the value of 50 listeners, because they didn't have to comb through, and they knew that by being on that person's podcast that they had the reputation that was enough for them. So you don't have to go for numbers, or if you don't have the numbers, or if it's your first year, get very creative on, do you have a social following? She mentioned an email newsletter. Like, do you have a big list that you can send out? Never give away your list. I'm so happy she talked about that.
Yeah, I'm glad that question got asked and answered. That you never give away your list. You send on behalf of your sponsor, but you never give them the list.
Yes, and I have had people like get really angry at me about that, but I won't do it. I will never agree to those terms. But
by the way, at major conferences, just so you know, at major conferences, one of the big benefits of being one of the premier sponsors is that you get a list of all the conference attendees, right?
I know. It's
so
strange.
It's a different thing, but if you're doing
events, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had people do that. I've worked with people who have gotten a massive list, and it's a dirty list that you get flagged. I guarantee it. Yep. So, use it with caution.
So can I share one other tip that a friend of mine gave me? He is the head of sales at the Family Office Club. So you guys know what those are, right?
I don't.
So when you become wealthy, you hopefully hire people to help you take care of your money, right? Lawyers, accountants, finance people, etc. When you become a centimillionaire, like worth 100 million or higher, you hire all those people and you put them in one office, and they work for your family, and that's called the family office. So these are wealthiest families in the world have family offices, billionaires, centimillionaires, so forth and so on. So the Family Office Club sells to that community. So you can imagine that they have a huge group of people, like investment opportunities, then venture capital firms and private equity firms that want to sell to their sponsorship. So I chatted with a friend of mine after the session to ask him for some of his tips and what he thought. And he said that everything that she had said is on point. And he said, he couldn't hammer home enough about the demographics, right? Like, this is what you provide for the demographics, because they make a significant amount of money on sponsorships, like huge dollars. And they actually sell stage time, like 20, 30 minutes, 1 hour talks. If you want to head up a panel, you pay $50,000 to get on their stages, to get in front of these family offices. But one of the things he said that was really interesting is that they have this guarantee built into their contracts that if they say they're going to put 300 family offices in the room, or 300 family office reps in the room, if there's anything less than 200, they give back part of the sponsorship fee.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's their performance.
A lot of people would love that.
Very attractive to the sponsor because they're like, well, fine, I get some of my money back. Well, no one else is offering that. That's okay, fine. I'll pay your extra high fees, right, for landing that. So I thought that was a heck of a good idea.
Oh, I love
that idea.
It's a skin in the game, right? Because again, kind of a relational of like, hey, I'm trying to do this for you and vice versa. So what I really liked about that though, so if you've got skin in the game in this context, one of the things that she said was it wasn't just that one event you want sponsorship money for. They're investing for the year. They're investing for a longer term, longer stickiness factor of it. How often have we made the mistake of then saying, hey, I want to get, $50K for an event, but you said for an event, right? Like how many times do we fall into that? And it goes back to what I need from you, not here's the value I'm bringing to you.
And I think one of the easy things to change is to change your language into event series. Hey, we do this, 10-part event series every year or whatever it is. I think that was a major thing too, right? To think about the year-round stuff. And I will say just one other thing about like sponsorships, because I've been able to keep my sponsors here in Miami through the pandemic.
Oh, that's
right.
Awesome.
They've stuck with me through thick and thin. And I'll say that there's a couple of things that are in common. One is I treat my sponsors like gold, right? Like when they're on site and they're setting up, whether they're a tequila sponsor or like a food and bev sponsor or something like that, I treat them the same as I would any of my CEO guests, right? So I take very, very good care of them. The other thing is I personally take people to them to introduce them to what they need. Like our tequila sponsor is expanding right now. They just are crushing it in Florida. They're getting ready to open up a big national launch. So I know other people in the alcohol business, right? So as I meet them, I introduce them to my sponsors, right? So just keeping that relationship up. And then the other thing is to ask them consistently, like what they want out of each event. What do they want? Do they want exposure? Do they want digital? Do they want et cetera? And then even though I haven't in the past like said this is included, I always make sure that I make them social media posts, videos, and other things as such an extra value add, which now I know to actually formalize that for our paid sponsorships because we're doing that anyways. And we have samples of it. Now we can show those sponsors as well. So I think that'll be another nice little value add because it's expensive for them to send out their people and make extra media and do all that, right? So I think that's a nice value proposition as well.
Yeah, I loved her point of saying like that, not just, okay, we did the event or we did whatever, I've got your ad there, but that follow-up saying, this is what, maybe the impressions you got. This is the, hey, I want to let you know, she gave that American Airlines example. Like, hey, I did this post for you. And, it's like, love you.
Yeah.
Like just make sure you saw that I love you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'll take out my sponsors for like, I'm just thinking, right, how to take care of them. One is I could take them all out boating with me. Yeah. That's an easy thing to do. Take out the 5 or 6 sponsors that are the best and say, let's go boating together. And that's an easy way to, now I've got them for 8 hours with me on a boat,
And get the boat wax people. Get the boat wax people to sponsor the trip.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. The boat wax people, the sailing companies, the marine engine companies. There's a lot of money in marine stuff. Right?
Yeah.
There's a world of sponsors.
So again, it goes back to what she's talking about. Do not underestimate the power of in kind. Right?
Yeah.
Where there's no money being exchanged, maybe in the beginning, or maybe as you're developing the relationship, but the power of in kind, quid pro quo, whatever you want to call it, scratch my back, I scratch yours. I just don't think we've leveraged it enough or understood it well enough to parlay it into that big money, but it makes absolute freaking sense, you guys.
And I know we're running out of time, but I'll tell you, so my very first event, Southwest Airlines was my very first sponsor.
Wow.
Now, I can't remember the amount of money they gave me. It was very minimal, but they gave me plane tickets for my speakers to fly in. And I don't care what they gave me. I didn't even care if they gave me anything. To say I had Southwest Airlines as a sponsor was everything, because all of a sudden people are like, oh, you're cute. You're going to do this event. That's cute. And I'm like, well, Southwest Airlines is a sponsor. Oh, they're a sponsor. Okay. Well, what's your let me see your packet. Okay. Well, we'll sponsor too. It changed everything. So even if you can finagle and get in kind, you get that name recognition, it will land you a lot more money. Take the in-kind to leverage the name.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember when Erin did the Entrepreneur Summit and she told me about Southwest Airlines. I was like, girl, that's gold. And then next thing you know, she goes, I can't want to be part of it too. And I'm like, dude, I mean, you're getting multi-billion-dollar international companies at an entrepreneur event. I mean, it was awesome.
And those are the right long-term relationships to have, right? Yeah, for sure. And you start stacking those up. I can only imagine you start stacking this up, what year 3 looks like for events.
Yeah.
And if you do a good job putting on events, people are going to come. It's
for sure.
I'm stoked about the sponsorship side, because for me, I look at it as I will add another 7 figures in my income over the next 3 years using just this strategy.
That's awesome.
There's no reason to think about anything less than that, because events can just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So
it makes absolute sense. So again, remember, we gave you an idea. So just throwing it out there.
Remember the little people.
You guys are doing the exact same thing. What are you talking about, little people?
So as always, Mo, I really appreciate you. And I knew this was another topic that you'd be so passionate about and would offer great insights as well, because to me, you're like the other expert that, between you and Linda, I feel like we're getting master classes here. So thank you, Mo. Really appreciate you giving, your information for us.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for having me on again. I clearly learned a lot in this time with you. I've got some awesome business tips, which is really nice to get. It's one of the huge values of why I like talking to other entrepreneurs and people that know their stuff, right? Makes a big difference.
It does. And for those that want to learn more about Mo's actual business, because GLO, we are chairs, but we are not employees, Into Power, please hit him up. I mean, he's done amazing work, his consulting work, all the teaching engagements that you've done and events. Hit up Into Power, INTUPOWER.com, or look Mo up at Mo Hasan on LinkedIn, or if you want to see him on a boat somewhere topless, I mean, you guess you can hit up Instagram, but
soon with sponsors.
All right, so Erin, let's wrap it up. Any thoughts?
So, all of this is part of the Business Acceleration 2.0, Business Accelerator 2.0 series through GLO. So we'd love to have you be a premium member. Syya and I are the co-chairs of Dallas. Mo is the chair of Miami. So if you're in any of those cities watching it, come join us and you get to be part of these Thursday events. And then the VIP, which, I mean, obviously, like Mo is saying, he's going to add 7 figures to his business over the next few years just because of what he's learned. I think that's some pretty good value there. So head on over to withglo.com to check that out.
And for next week's speaker, we are inviting Mr. Yossi Ginsberg. So the title is Bringing Amazon Surviving Skills to Business. So he's an adventurer. He's shared the stage with lots of, political figures and big, powerful, billionaire leadership folk. I'm sure Mo, you and him probably have gone boating together, but there is something to be said about applying those adventure survival skills into business, because let's be honest, business and entrepreneurship is a bit of a battlefield at times. So guys, hit up next Thursday, 10 a.m., Global Leaders Organization. You can watch on Facebook or on LinkedIn Live, or you can watch us talking about it on Afterglow next Friday. Until then, guys, have a great, safe 4th of July weekend, everyone, and happy Canada Day. I think I'm a day late. And we shall see ya on Afterglow next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.